Hey guys, this is like my third time recording this, so hopefully I get it this time. But this is my presentation on Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's been my favorite movie since I was a child. The first time I watched it was in third grade, I believe. It was after we had read the children's book written by Roald Dahl. So we watched the movie immediately after, and I've been in love with it since. Over the years, as I watch it, the themes and everything that the movie talks about has become, a little more personal to me. And I feel like over the years, depending on where I'm at in my life, I get something completely new out of it, which is cool. That's what film is all about, So yeah. First slide, film overview. So, movie came out in 2009, directed by Wes Anderson, and stars George Clooney, Meryl Streep, Jason Schwartzman, and Bill Murray. Like I said, it is an adaptation of Roald Dahl's children's book, and it is a stop-motion film. So, it's very, very unique. Very, very unique. This is, in my opinion, Wes Anderson's best film. And, well, yeah, I mean, I'm biased. It's my favorite film of all time. But it's visually and narratively very, very rich in its story. So yeah. Overview. Sorry. The story follows fantastic Mr. Fox, a former thief who promises his wife he will get out of the crime business and live a quieter, safer life. After a few years of this life, he gets restless and goes back to stealing from the famous farmers' bogus buns and beans. The theft puts his family and the rest of the animals at risk in their little community, as they were caught by these three men, and ultimately, Mr. Fox has to come to terms with the consequences of his actions. There's a lot of humor and charm in this movie, but there's a deeper look at other themes such as identity, responsibility, self-doubt, and how often our true selves do not match what we want to become. Like I said, this is supposed to be a children's movie, but it is a lot more than that, man. And in the later slides, I'll go more into detail about, a lot of the themes and a lot of things that the movie talks about. Character arcs. There's two main character arcs in this movie. There's Mr. Fox's character arc, and then there's Ash, his son, that character arc. So Ash's character arc is he's Mr. Fox's son, right? So Mr. Fox is, in his little community, held to a very high standard. I mean, they have him on a pedestal, and Ash wants to be held to that same standard as his father. But throughout the film, it's very obvious that, like the film says, Ash is very different. He's unique in his own ways, and later in the film, he learns to accept who he truly is, and he diverges from the path that he was trying to follow in his father's footsteps. And, he embraces who he is. He embraces who he is, essentially. Whereas Mr. Fox is kind of stuck in the past. He, like I just said, in his little community, he has very high standards. Everybody thinks so highly of him. And he's driven by ego for the most part. It's explored many times in the movie, and I feel like a lot of us are driven by ego sometimes, So he's a character that's very, very relatable. But his arc is embracing who he has to become. He has to become a father first and foremost for Ash. He has to become a responsible husband. He has to embrace that part of his life and leave who he was behind. Later I'll show another slide of a certain topic that I want to talk about, but yeah. So I added this slide. It's the color palette, missing scene. So I wanted to include this because I feel like Fantastic Mr. Fox is very much a fall, autumn, I guess, Thanksgiving movie, you could even say. There's a scene where they're all celebrating Mr. Fox, his family, the community, and they're even having like food that I relate to Thanksgiving, so it's like turkey and ham, and there's all this, food and stuff. And the colors, I mean, it's oranges, it's browns, it's very autumn and fall themed, in my opinion. Mise en scene, setting, and production design. Like I said, this is a stop motion film, and it makes this film super, super unique. I think visually and stylistically, I guess you could say, this is the most Wes Anderson film that he's ever made. I mean, it suits him to a T. He's able to express himself in a way that he's not able to express himself through other forms of art in his film. So yeah, the film's role was created using miniature models. It was handmade. And yeah. Oh, also, there was even like I know one of the final scenes where a wolf shows up. There was like it was basically a human dressed as a wolf, So it's very, very unique, and it creates a world that is very, very immersive and fun and charming, Directing and camera use. So, like I said, this is a Wes Anderson movie. You could tell from the first scene, where Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox are, going on a little stealing spree, and Mrs. Fox reveals that she's pregnant with Ash. But yeah, he makes use of symmetrical composition, static framing, and quick pan and zoom to create both comedic rhythms as well as a sense of energy. The stop motion provides an added layer of charm by creating a somewhat jerky and handmade feeling when characters move around the scene. Anderson creates a fast-paced and frenetic atmosphere using rapid-fire editing and lots of camera movement, whereas during quieter and more personal moments between characters, the film typically presents moments with long still frame shots. This is presented in the picture I provided with the waterfall scene, where Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox are having a very serious conversation about their future, and the whole frame, the whole shot is just still and static, So it mixes both styles very well, and like I said, it's visually a stunning movie. Sound and music, I'm not going to go over this too much, but the soundtrack combines traditional folk instrumentation with soft melodies to reflect the cinematic landscape of autumn in the film setting. Again, going back to autumn, I feel like it's very warm, giddy music. It makes you feel pretty good inside and stuff. Yeah. I wanted to dedicate a whole slide to existentialism, because I feel like that is what I get out of this movie. I feel like this is what this movie is about. Mr. Fox, throughout the whole film, he tries to explore who he is and who he wants to become. He doesn't feel complete despite having a loving family and a good one. He's always going back to stealing and to going back to stealing per se. He feels disconnected from his true self, and this is explored in the final scene of the movie, where I think I saw a clip saying that scene in particular was the whole reason why Anderson wanted to direct that film. It was when Mr. Fox is riding in the little bike with oh my gosh, I forgot his name, but he's riding with essentially his best friend, and he's riding with Ash, and they encounter a wolf. Throughout the whole movie, it is said that Mr. Fox has a phobia of wolf. He fears them, and in that scene, Mr. Fox stops his bike, he stares at the wolf, and he faces his fear of wolves. He faces that phobia, and it's only then that he learns to accept who he needs to become for his family, for his community. He's driven by ego in a lot of things, but that at the end of the film, he learns to accept his flaws and accept who he is, and he learns to become a better father, a better husband. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene, and it makes me very, very emotional every time I watch it, because I feel like that's a battle that we all face day day and day, So, yeah. I wanted to include this too because this is something I only recently noticed on my latest watch, actually. I have never stopped to read Mr. Fox's newspaper column, his column, and the last time I watched the movie, I stopped it and I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome, So Fox on the Prowl with Fantastic Mr. Fox. I want to go over just the last little paragraph here. So he says, I'm not the fox I used to be, not by choice, but these days when I look at myself in the mirror, I try to keep a straight face. At some point, maybe I won't feel the need to turn away. So, like I said, existentialism, it represents it perfectly, and he writes this in a way that's very Mr. Fox. It's very witty. It has charm to it. It has humor, but there's also a very sad side to him, and it's a side that I can relate to, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, where we feel disconnected from ourselves. I wrote that he, feels drained, uncertain about who he has evolved into. Mr. Fox admits to no longer being the fox he once was. The writing is equal parts humorous, sad, and introspective. At this moment, the audience can finally see through the confident facade of Mr. Fox and realize that he is struggling with more than just surface level issues, which he often battles. It's a very vulnerable side, and it's awesome that I read it. I feel like it's not something a lot of people see, so I wanted to include a whole slide to it because I thought it was super, super awesome. I hope I explained that well. I feel like I'm all over the place. Cultural impact and reflection. So over the years, I feel like culturally the movie has become more relevant. You see it all over TikTok and Instagram. There's edits of the scene where Mr. Fox is talking to Mrs. Fox, and he's like, I don't want to live in a hole anymore. It makes me feel poor. Mrs. Fox is like, we are poor, but we're happy. Again, over the years, the film has gained a lot of traction, and I think that's awesome because I think it's an awesome film. Not only that, but stop motion is not very relevant in today's film, and I think it should be because I think it's an awesome way of showing stories visually and stylistically, as well. So yeah. Works cited. I completely forgot to add my sources, but yeah, that is the end of my presentation. I will add my sources in the final draft. Sorry about that.